Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Welcome to our IATA-UPU-ICAO webinar. This webinar is the first out of 2 webinars planned this year on a topic safety and security. My name is Zoran Stevanovic from the UPU Transport Program, and I will be your moderator today. Today we will have 4 presentations, 5 speakers. Therefore, due to the time limit, I will move forward immediately with the introductory part. I would like also to note that today with us is the Deputy Director General of the Universal Postal Union, Mr. Marian Oswald, who will open this webinar with the introductory part. Mr. Oswald, you have the floor. Thank you.
Hvala, Zoran. Thank you. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this 8th joint webinar organized by the Universal Postal Union and the International Air Transport Association, IATA, and for the first time in partnership with the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. We are also especially delighted to have the valued support of Interpol, who will be contributing to today's discussion with a dedicated presentation. This collaboration is a testament to how our joint efforts have evolved and deepened over time. Over the past 4 years, these webinars have blossomed into a dynamic forum for exchanging knowledge, forging stronger partnerships, and addressing the real-world operation challenges facing the postal and air transport supply chain. It is truly encouraging to see each edition bring together hundreds of professionals from designated postal operators, airlines, and customs authorities, civil aviation bodies, IT solution providers, and law enforcement agencies. I'm confident that these sessions have significantly helped posts and carriers meet the latest regulatory challenges such as ICS2 and STOP Act. In previous sessions, we have explored a broad spectrum of topics with particular emphasis on the implementation of the global postal model and the critical need for advanced electronic data exchange, especially in response to evolving compliance requirements like ICS2. We have also examined the key trends driving the digital transformation of our industry, including the shift towards paperless transport, the adoption of ECSD, and the proactive management of emerging risk assessment and compliance gaps. Throughout, we have remained steadfast in our commitment to safety and security, the foundation pillar of trust in our network. We have delved into the best practices for handling dangerous goods, achieving postal security certification, implementing AR flag to confirm risk assessment outcomes between origin and destination, and fostering practical collaboration between post and aviation security stakeholders. Now, with ICAO joining us as a co-organizer, we have a unique opportunity to further strengthen our multi-stakeholder approach and better align the postal and aviation sectors in the face of shared challenges. Today's session marks the first of 2 webinars in 2025 under the theme of safety and security. We are privileged to have 4 distinguished speakers from ICAO, IATA, Interpol, and UPU, who will share the latest updates, practical insights, and effective strategies for addressing risks and enhancing resilience across our networks. While we each represent a different segment of supply chain, we are united by a common purpose: to ensure the safe, secure, and reliable movement of mail across borders in full alignment with global standards, evolving regulations, and rising customers' expectations. Thank you again for joining us and for your ongoing commitment to collaboration and progress. I wish you all a productive, insightful, and engaging session. Thank you. Back to you, Zoran.
Thank you, Mr. DDG, for this excellent introduction. Before we begin with our presentation, I have a few quick notes for you. First of all participants are kindly asked to submit their questions via the Zoom questions and answer box. So please do not use the chat box. Please use questions and answer, because this is a place where we can record all your questions. And after the meeting, if there are some questions we didn't respond, actually we will respond into the specific questions and answer document, and we will provide afterward. Following the webinar also, you will receive a link to the UPU website where you can access the presentation slides, the session recording, and additional resources. Now we can move to our first presentation. Our first presentation will focus on the aviation perspective. We are pleased to welcome ICAO representatives, Mrs. Sonia Hifty, Chief of the Aviation Security Policy Sections at ICAO, and Mr. Virgilio Alergia, Technical Officer in the Cargo Safety Section at ICAO. They will speak on enhancing aviation security and safety and security in cargo and mail. Mr. Hifty and Mr. Alergia, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think that we will begin for ICAO, and the presentation is indeed in two phases. The first phases will be with my colleague Virgilio on safety, and then I will take the floor on security. We are one safety and security, so in fact we start with safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sonia. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Virgilio Alegría, and I am a technical officer in the Cargo Safety Section, Air Navigation Bureau at ICAO. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to go through the slides really fast because of the time constraint. This is what I'm going to cover in my presentation, basically a high-level overview of the ICAO regulations, the need for DPOs or designated postal operators to receive approval from the respective civil aviation authorities for carriage of electronic equipment containing lithium batteries, building relationships between DPOs and CAAs, and I'm going to talk about the results and statistics from a survey that ICAO conducted in 2024. Next. First of all, what is ICAO? ICAO, or International Civil Aviation Organization, is a specialized agency of the United Nations created in 1944 upon the signing of the Convention on International Civil Aviation, otherwise known as Chicago Convention. Currently, ICAO has 193 states. ICAO sets standards and recommended practices in civil aviation in the fields of safety, security, air navigation capacity and efficiency, economic development, and environmental protection. These standards are based on consensus and agreements through its 193 member states or countries. We call countries states at ICAO. Next slide, please. The Chicago Convention is supported by 19 annexes. We're going to talk about 2 of them. I'm going to talk briefly about Annex 18, the safe transport of dangerous goods by air. And as mentioned before, my colleague Sonia Hifty will talk about Annex 17, aviation security. Next. All right, so at ICAO, we have 2 documents that talk about dangerous goods. Annex 18 is the high-level document, the safe transport of dangerous goods by air, supported by another document, documents 9284, the technical instructions for the safe transport of dangerous goods by air. Annex 18 is a 40 or 42-page document. Again, it talks at a very high level the standards and recommended practices for the transport of dangerous goods by air. And the technical instructions explain in detail the basic principles of Annex 18. The technical instructions is a book of almost 1,000 pages. Next. There are 2 important provisions in Annex 18, Provision 10.2 and 11.4. These 2 provisions state that dangerous goods training programs for designated postal operators must be approved by the Civil Aviation Authority of that state, and the procedures of designated postal operators for controlling the introduction of dangerous goods in mail into air transport shall also be approved by the Civil Aviation Authority of the state where the mail is accepted. In many countries or many states, there is a disconnect or a lack of coordination between civil aviation authorities and designated postal operators. So that's why we wanted to talk, we wanted to have this chat with you, or this presentation with you, to make you aware of the need of coordination between DPOs and CAAs. Next. Currently, there is an amendment to Annex 18 that will include a new chapter on the transport of dangerous goods by post, and also that's chapter 8, and also chapter 5, safety of the supply chain. The proposed amendments of Annex 18 will clarify the state's responsibilities. We are hoping to be able to send to ICAO's Air Navigation Commission the proposed amendments in Q1 of 2026. And if everything goes smoothly, we expect to have these new SERPs applicable in November of 2028. Next. Now, talking about the technical instructions for the safe transport of dangerous goods by air, or most commonly known simply as the technical instructions, there's a full chapter in the technical instructions related to the transport of dangerous goods by post. And this is the link between ICAO and the Universal Postal Union. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to say that there are two important paragraphs here. 2.3.3, the procedures of DPOs for controlling the introduction of dangerous goods in mail into air transport are subject to review and approval by the Civil Aviation Authority. And 2.3.4, the DPO must have received specific approval from the Civil Aviation Authority before the DPO can introduce the acceptance of lithium batteries as defined in this section. Next. The technical instructions also have a supplement that is basically guidance to states. This is because there may be variations in designated postal operator approval procedures across different countries. Next. I am providing a link here. There is a list in the ICAO's website of all the national authorities for dangerous goods transport by air. So this is a source that you can go into in case you need to contact your civil aviation authority. Next. In 2024, ICAO conducted a survey for civil aviation authorities granting specific approval for DPOs accepting equipment containing lithium batteries in mail for international air transport. Out of the 192 UPU countries, 46 of them answered the survey. That's roughly 1/4. And the important numbers, for example, 35 DPOs have procedures for preventing the introduction of dangerous goods not permitted in airmail. That's roughly 3/4. 26 DPOs accept dangerous goods permitted in accordance with the technical instructions. That's roughly half. 25 CAAs have reviewed and approved the procedures of their DPOs to control the introduction of dangerous goods in airmail. That's half as well. 20 countries require incidents involving mail containing dangerous goods in air transportation to be reported. And 24 DPOs currently accept lithium batteries contained in equipment for transport in international mail. So as we can see here, between 50 and 60% of the 46 countries that responded to the survey comply with ICAO's standards. So this tells us clearly that there's a need to improve coordination between civil aviation authorities and designated postal operators. Next. So what's next? As I said, when we look at the results of the survey, there's an increase there's a need to increase the awareness of regulations. There's a need to increase the collaboration between civil aviation authorities and designated postal operators. And the ultimate goal of all this is to reduce the number of incidents involving mail containing dangerous goods in air transportation. That's it from me. I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Sonia Iti, who is going to talk about the security aspect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virgilio. So when we are building on safety, now I will try to drive you through some key elements in security. Next slide, please. I'm Sonia Ifdi. I'm the Chief of the Aviation Security Policy Section in ICAO, where I'm doing with aviation security, cyber security, and also the protection of civil aviation as critical infrastructure. And in that part, we are working quite closely with many of our UN colleagues. I will not go through what was already Virgilio told you about the 993 states, but I would like to add two little things and two big actions that we have. We are also auditing states. So states gave ICAO the power to audit them, and we're auditing them on safety and on security. And I'm making that point because at the end, I will drive you a snapshot of where we are in cargo and mail security. And we are assisting them in the implementation of standards and recommended practices. Next slide, please. Also, as introduction, because before we are going into a deep dive, in fact, out of the international instrument against counterterrorism that we have in the United Nations systems, you will see on screen all the ones that are currently managed by ICAO, and it was given by states. Our international work is a network and our work with aviation is helping quite a lot in terms of international terrorism too. Next slide, please. As already Virgilio told you, of course, we have 19 annexes to the Chicago Convention. This is what you will see on your left. And in fact, indeed, we have Annex 17, which is called Aviation Security, and includes standards and recommended practice for aviation security. No specific standards for mail. Cargo and mail are following exactly the same path under Annex 17. We have development of best practices, and I would say here we have our main document, which is called the Aviation Security Manual. It's something that states can have, or I hope that states have for free, and quite a big, thick document. And Chapter 13 is detailing everything that you need to know about cargo and mail security. Of course, we are working quite closely with industry to ensure that their guidance are also aligned. For the implementation, we are governance agnostic, so every single state can choose the way that they implement guidance as soon as it is implemented. And you will see the little comment on the right on the right side. In fact, there is no requirement for transmission of advanced cargo information, and meaning that in ICAO, this is not something that we have in our regulatory framework. Next slide, please. I would like to deep dive into what are we trying to do. When we're talking about security, in fact, we are protecting civil aviation, and what is for me the most important part, against different risks. On this one, I would like to show that there is a document that for any stakeholders that have a need to know, that will drive you through a quite description of scenarios, and we will issue what we call the addendum, so it's a little one that you will see that will drive you through more detail about different things. Why I'm here, I will say, in addition to the invitation of our colleagues from UPU, is to show the current situation that is assessed by cargo and mail. So this document is based on the expertise of experts from member states that are sharing their intel, that are doing the risk assessment for us to know what are the different scenarios that we have to focus. Attacks using cargo and mail consignment is one out of the 7 that are assessed having a residual risk as medium high. So in fact, when you are comparing, it's at the same time, it's at the same level as protecting landside of an airport or trying to protect against the use of an aircraft as a weapon, or even as a person-borne IED, so improvised explosive devices. So we are quite worried. Because of what happened in the last 12 months, the group also went into an in-depth assessment. So now I can tell you that if I'm reading some part of this document that is restricted, so I cannot show it on screen, but I can give you an insight of where we are. Currently, the likelihood of an attack is assessed as medium-high. The consequences are high because we are talking about losing an aircraft. The residual vulnerability is medium-high, and the residual risk is medium-high. There has been recent activity targeting global mail and cargo supply chain network through improvised explosive device, IED, and improvised incendiary device, IID. The level and complexity and sophistication of IID make the device that may be difficult to detect. Recent incidents not only raise concern related to testing of the system, but highlight the need for continued vigilance as threats and tactics continue to evolve. So the situation is serious, not critical, and we have some good baseline. And I think that the cooperation that we have is already a first step, but it's serious. Next slide, please. What I can try to comment on the dynamic. In fact, in July 2024, we have a few parcels that were sent via express services within Europe that combusted and resulted in fire during transit. We were lucky it was not in an airplane, and not all parcels were going through airplane. On the 12th September 2024, we had one state that notified what we call an act of unlawful interference by a European state. We would then share through our network, including what we call industry, so colleagues from IATA, including colleagues from UPU, on the fact that we need for call and awareness and heightened vigilance all across the globe. Our experts group, the AFSEC panel, met several times and their working groups, including with industry and with UPU, to ensure that we are finding the right balance between putting new measures and ensuring that it's coordinated. In terms of what happened in 2025, it's not the end. In fact, we had 2 new incidents that we were informed, and in fact these packages were through mail. So in fact we want to say that last month in April, in fact our expert group was telling us that we need to deal with IID without not forgetting for IED, and it's including cargo and mail. Next slide, please. What can be done? First thing, in fact, we need to make sure that everyone is aware, and thank you very much UPU for this kind of webinar. We are touching a lot of people and it's really helping for the first line. We have to coordinate and to coordinate better between aviation and postal authorities on secure supply chain measures. We need to make sure that everyone knows how to answer and to prevent and to answer to IID without not forgetting IED. We need to ensure that occurrence and incident reporting procedures are implemented. What's next? In fact, we need to develop guidance material to ensure that everyone on the globe will know how to react. We have to base that on our key strength. We already have measures in place. So I'm not pushing to have new things. I'm just saying that we need to have things adapted. We need to assess the best technical solutions for a longer-term sustainable solution. We need to strengthen our coordination with aviation safety, and you've seen that they are even beginning to talk for ICAO, with UPU, and for WCO, for the matters that are of customs. And we need to promote principle of international cooperation and information sharing with operators, within ourselves, with member states, between UN systems. We need to make sure that when something is happening, we know and we share and we discuss before taking measures. Next slide. Where are we? And this will be my last slide for today. So you will see here, it's global compliance with air cargo and mail standards. And in fact, you will see that these are ICAO region. So North Atlantic and Caribbean states, there is not only 2 states, we are at 35% of compliance. South America, we are at 52. West Africa, 60. East Africa, 63. Middle East, 82. Asia Pacific, 55. And EURONAT, European and North Atlantic regions, we are at 73%. The problem in security are not the level of compliance, it's the level of non-compliance. This may be seen as vulnerability that people can exploit. We need, of course, to see that it's dynamic. In fact, the time that I was speaking, these data are the one at the end of 2024. It's already outdated and we're already better. So in fact, for me, I would like these numbers to raise. I would like this part to make sure that we are aligned and we are all knowing how to protect our global supply chain on these threats. If it's coming from cargo, from mail, taking into consideration the specificities of the two. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hifti and Ms. Alergia, for this insightful overview of the ICAO work and evolving regulatory landscape in the aviation security. What we can see, actually, you provided us a lot of information. Of course, we will have a look after even this webinar into presentation we are going to provide to all members, because I think it's very useful to address also in their operations and to find the best way forward to raise those concerns and eliminate as well. Your contributions provide a strong foundation for both for the postal and aviation sector. We also wish to highlight the excellent collaboration between ICAO and the UPU. And of course, we are looking forward to continuing this important dialogue in our second webinar, which with the further details which will be shared. Now we can switch to the postal perspective. Mr. James Golson, Operation Safety Expert in the UPU International Bureau, will provide us a presentation on ensuring postal security and overview of the UPU regulations and training programs. Jacob, you have a floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoran. Next slide, please. All right. As an overview for everyone, if you aren't already aware of the UPU first started in 1874. The 22 member nations established the largest physical delivery network in the world. Now, with 192 countries, this is not only still true, but it's even more relevant today. Worldwide, the global postal network employs approximately 5 million people in more than 676,000 postal outlets. In a given year, approximately 247 billion domestic and international letters and over 27 billion parcels will be delivered. A stat that is quite incredible and very relevant to this discussion is the fact that approximately 80% of the world's population can be directly reached with physical delivery of goods through the post. Next slide, please. Okay, I like to begin with this slide to help illustrate the complexities of the postal supply chain. It is a physical and virtual network moving mail from origin to destination with associated electronic advanced data, or EAD, messages. Each origin, transit, and destination operator has its own supply chain, which functions independently on the domestic level and must integrate its offerings on the international level. Whereas express couriers generally tend to control their entire supply chain from origin to destination, the complexity of the postal supply chain increases the necessity to work closely with all stakeholders, to include customs operators, to ensure security and safety through the entire supply chain. Next slide, please. Okay, as many of you are aware, and this webinar illustrates, collaboration is key. The UPU has 192 member countries with over 200 designated postal operators and a little under 300 staff members, many of whom are secondees or temporary consultants. Therefore, we understand the true value in collaboration and utilizing resources which may already exist in other public or private sector organizations. We have strong working relationships with all of the organizations you see on this slide, with either MOUs, or memorandums of understanding, or cooperation agreements. We attempt to have continuous engagement with our primary partners to understand what resources are available and how we can work together to make these resources available to our designated operators. The UN system places great importance on enhancing data sharing mechanisms across agencies and addressing any gaps in order to provide better and more complete data sets to member states and interested stakeholders to facilitate evidence-informed decision and policy making. Next slide, please. I would like to start off with the basics. Many of you in this room are familiar with the UPU Convention Manual Article 8, which covers postal security. Under Article 8-001, it is delineated that member countries and their designated operators shall adhere to UPU Technical Standards S58, or Postal Security, General Security Measures, and S59, Postal Security, Office of Exchange and International Airmail Security, and aim to raise quality of service as a whole, increase the employee awareness of the importance of security, create or reinforce security units, share operational security and investigative information on a timely basis, propose to legislators, wherever necessary, specific laws, regulations, and measures to improve the quality and security of worldwide postal services, provide guidelines, training methods, and assistance to postal officials to enable them to deal with emergency situations that could endanger life or property or could hamper the mail transport chain in order to maintain the continuity of operations. Article 9 addresses violations of these. Next slide, please. Article 19 addresses items not admitted. These prohibitions, including dangerous goods, illicit drugs, counterfeit and pirated articles, and other articles whose importation or circulation is prohibited in the country of destination. There are various detailed regulations associated with the above provisions, and if you would like to take a deep dive into this information, I would recommend reading the related articles and standards. Next slide, please. During the 2016 UPU Istanbul Congress Convention, Article 8 on Postal Security was entered into force. The UPU Security Standards S58 and S59 are complementary to Article 8 and designed to facilitate the adherence to the mandatory minimum security standards for all designated operators. The UPU point of contact, UPU POC granted status 2 to S58 and S59 in February 2016, and in an effort to facilitate compliance with the approved postal security standards, the Postal Security Group, in collaboration with the United States Postal Inspection Service and the CERT program at Carnegie Mellon University Software Engineering Institute, developed a physical security risk assessment tool to measure the security of critical facilities of designated operators. The certification process has been continuously honed since that time and last updated in 2023. The SAFE framework of standards lays down the principles and standards to be adopted as a minimal threshold by World Customs Organization members. The safety and security guidelines applicable to postal operations and contained in the UPU standards S58 and S59 are consistent with the SAFE framework of standards. S58 focuses on physical security for a critical facility, whereas S59 focuses on mail screening, proper handling, and proper communication and relationships between national authorities, such as customs officials. Next slide, please. We work to build capacity across the globe to ensure the security of the supply chain. This includes on-site trainings and security certifications in countries which meet specific UPU standards. All current certified facilities are available on the UPU website under the security group. Next slide, please. The UPU has been able to increase the identification, training, and engagement of postal security focal points drawn from the designated operators. As the Postal Security Manager is the only regular position focused on safety and security of the postal supply chain, this creates time and resource constraints. From November of 2021 to November of 2024, we were able to engage under a minimal monthly stipend 7 regional postal security managers from 7 countries for approximately 20% of their time to expand security and safety programs among their assigned designated postal operators. These individuals expanded the reach of the UPU and our partners exponentially in the short period of time in which they were engaged. As their contracts have now ended, we have attempted to transition their activities to the UPU Process Review Consultants, or PRCs, and UPU Development and Cooperation Department field experts. Next slide, please. The UPU and INCB have participated in regular coordination, planning expert groups, and postal security group meetings. The integration of the UPU regional postal security managers, INCB, and WCO field experts has further increased the advancement of supply chain security. There are a number of contacts, if you would like, for the various regions, including Africa, the Arab region, Asia Pacific region, and the Caribbean region, as well as the Europe region and Latin American region. Next slide, please. The UPU supports the development of regional security groups, networks that enable real-time collaboration among postal security leads. These groups empower designated operators to share intelligence, conduct peer learning, and engage in twinning, where experienced operators mentor others to build capabilities through shared operations or on-site exchanges. Currently, Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa have security action groups to conduct these activities. This collaborative approach ensures that capacity building isn't just a one-off event, but part of a sustained security culture that strengthens the global postal supply chain. Next slide, please. This is just a screenshot of the UPU's website, where you will find a lot of great tools for designated operators and postal security groups to gather information and material to stay up to date. Next slide, please. In addition to on-site training, we have worked with stakeholders to develop guidelines, virtual training courses, online resource libraries, and toolkits to increase mail safety with regard to prohibited items, which include illicit goods and non-medical synthetic opioids and fentanyls. Next slide, please. Currently, the UPU requests that designated operators who have achieved ECLB certification or equipment containing lithium battery certification from their civil aviation authorities to provide notification to the UPU so we can provide a cohesive tracking for all designated operators that are ECLB certified. The tracking is available, as with most things, through the UPU's website. The link is provided on this slide. We also have a robust dangerous goods campaign, training materials, and guidance documents. This includes guidelines to control the introduction of dangerous goods into postal networks, do not load guidelines, mail safety guidelines, and contingency planning, especially explosive devices in the post. The UPU also requests that designated operators, airlines, and other partners provide information on dangerous goods located in the mail stream, either the origin, the destination, or transit, for tracking and analysis purposes. The information can be provided through the UPU created spreadsheets or through the stakeholders' own spreadsheets or preferred information recording methodology via the security mailbox. It is imperative the information is provided to the UPU, as we maintain a database of all reported dangerous goods and enter them into our dangerous goods search tool for our designated operators and partners. Next slide, please. The UPU also recognizes mitigation efforts need to be approached from many levels. The Dangerous Goods Search Tool is an application which has been under development by the Universal Postal Union for the past 3 years to enable designated postal operators and air carriers to detect, identify, and intercept dangerous goods at any point, but as early as possible in the supply chain. The tool is designed to work with the UPU operational tools such as the International Postal System, or IPS, and Customs Declaration System, CDS, as well as bespoke designated operator systems with the goal to facilitate prediction, analytics reporting, and queries. The DGST user acceptance phase began in January of 2025 with 40 designated operators participating. The UPU has access to the majority of data. However, we require permission from all designated operators to use the data to assist them with the DGST. We are hoping to double the participants by Q3 of this year and move toward integration with external partners to further enhance the machine learning and identify more illicit goods in the postal supply chain before transport. The Dangerous Goods Search Tool will be deployed in November of 2025 with the next update of the International Postal System, IPS. This will allow those that use IPS to search and enter information more efficiently. Remember that the better information we have in the database, the more advantageous the database is to safeguard your designated operator. Next slide, please. Thank you everyone for your time. If you would like to learn more, please see the social media links on the current slide or visit the UPU homepage.
Thank you, Jason, really, for this excellent presentation. As we can see, the UPU is playing a vital role in building capacity and supporting compliance across the global postal network. As you noted in your presentation, designated postal operators of the UPU member countries, backed by strong support from the UPU, are actively implementing the latest regulations to ensure alignment with the international aviation security and safety requirements. Now we will switch to another presentation. We will hear from Mr. Nicholas Lawrence Taylor, Senior Manager for Cargo Security at IATA. His presentation titled Security in Airmail will explore IATA's approach to managing risks and supporting secure mail transport in the aviation sector. Nicholas, you have a floor. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Zoran, and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for attending today. So my name is Nick Lawrence Taylor. I'm the Senior Manager Cargo Security with IATA, based in Geneva. For those who don't know, IATA is the global trade association representing most of the world's airlines. And we're involved in standardizing processes, ensuring safety and security, and of course, promoting efficiency within the airline industry. So during my presentation today, I'm going to cover just two key topics relevant for airmail security, and I think these topics would also serve as a bit of an update on some of the work that IATA has been doing recently with our members, but also with our international counterparts. So these two topics today are the recent incidents, the incendiary device incidents that occurred last year, and then the reform project that we're currently working on with the consignment security declaration. So I'll start with the improvised incendiary device incidents. So of course, these happened last year in July. There were 2 or 3 parcels that had ignited in the supply chain. One of them caught fire on the tarmac during loading on an aircraft, or to an aircraft, and another caught fire inside a logistics facility. Thankfully, they did not cause any significant damage, and there were no serious injuries or deaths, but they were certainly a very serious incident that impacted cargo and supply chains, and it could have been a very significant event had these devices caught fire inside an aircraft during flight. So we do know that the devices were intentionally designed to cause damage and disruption. So they were designed to cause harm. And as I mentioned earlier, luckily, they had caught fire on the ground rather than in flight. I think many of us in the industry also accept that they are likely the biggest events that have impacted global air cargo and supply chains since about 2010, when we had the Yemen incidents. And I think that the most concerning element of these incidents, of course, were the fact that they were designed to circumvent existing controls. They were designed in a way to conceal the contents and to circumvent the security framework that we have in place across the cargo supply chain system. It was also a great possibility that the mail system may have been the preferred means of carriage. That's likely due to some of the mail system probably having lesser controls in place, and therefore mail was targeted as the preferred means of carriage in some of these incidents. Earlier this year, unfortunately, there were a couple of more incidents that allegedly involved IEDs instead of improvised incendiary devices. And again, they occurred in Europe and showed that the threat is still very much real and emerging. And most recently, I think it was just last month, in fact, there were some arrests in Poland and Germany. and some suspects were detained after significant investigations involving intelligence authorities and security services. So thankfully, it's likely that we have some culprits that have been investigated now, but by no means does that mean that the threat is over. And I think it's really important to understand that this threat is global. And in fact, even if the threat from last year has dissipated, the vulnerability exists across the global system. Next slide, please. So what does all that mean for the mail system? So as I said, it's very much a global vulnerability. It's unfortunately revealed a gap within the system that could be exploited by other threat actors. Throughout this process, IATA was heavily involved with our members, particularly through the Cargo Security Working Group, to look at how these events have impacted the industry and what we can do to mitigate. So I'll now just cover some of the key, I suppose, challenges for the industry relating to mail. So firstly, I think, as we all know, there are many countries that would allow the sending of mail from an unattended postbox. So these examples would include, like a postbox in a supermarket or on a sidewalk, which is unattended. So you can therefore send mail without any form of, data collection or background information supporting that postage. So as long as you've paid your postage stamps, you can drop that letter inside the mailbox and off it goes. And there's no ability for a staff member to collect data from the sender. And the problem arose there when we had some international jurisdictions seeking data to support the sending of consignments, which of course was a great measure, but didn't necessarily work in all scenarios for mail. In terms of screening methods, we had discussed earlier, I think Jacob had mentioned S58 and S59, which contain the authorized screening methods for mail, one of which, of course, is X-ray. Again, in the aftermath of these incidents, we've seen some jurisdictions seeking to require X-ray screening, which is good. But the trouble is not all of the designated operators actually have that equipment available. So not all operators are using X-ray to screen the mail, which presented a big challenge. And then mail receptacles. So in most cases, the mail is consolidated into a bag and then placed inside the bag and sealed. And again, we had in the aftermath of these incidents, because we were seeking to have a greater level of scrutiny on the screening process, there were some jurisdictions that were requesting piece level screening. So that's essentially screening individual pieces of mail, which doesn't always work if you've got that mail enclosed inside the receptacle. And the reason there is because some operators do not permit the opening of mail receptacles. So if the regulated agent or equivalent receives the receptacle as an enclosed bag, they're not allowed to open it and then screen at the piece level. In terms of X-ray screening, the mail bag density presented a big challenge for industry. You can imagine a large bag containing 50 or 100 or 200 envelopes and mail parcels would be quite difficult to screen in terms of the density. And it would be difficult in some cases for the screeners to interpret that image correctly. And again, we had some jurisdictions asking for the segregation. So if it was identified during screening that a particular parcel or envelope contained a certain combination of items, they were asking the DO to segregate those items and remove them. However, that wouldn't always be possible if all of those items were contained in the one bag and we had a scenario where the bag was not allowed to be opened. And then going back to my first point where we've got unattended mailboxes, in scenarios where operators were asked to segregate mail and then potentially remove the mail from the system and return it to the sender. That's not always possible if we don't have the supporting data, if that envelope or the parcel was sent from an unattended postbox. And then another big challenge was weight-based segregation. So there were some scenarios where jurisdictions were asking for the segregation of mail based on weight. But again, if those items of mail and parcels were placed inside a receptacle and sealed, it was not always possible to segregate based on weight. And I think the biggest challenge that we saw out of all of this was a disregard for the existing UPU convention, as well as S58 and S59. And of course, I don't think that was intentional. It was just, jurisdictions seeking to protect their industry and their aviation system. But unfortunately, some of the processes and extra measures and procedures that they had implemented and requested of industry did not necessarily align with the existing convention and S58 and S59. So I think for me, well, for industry really, the biggest call there is to ensure that we unite together, and if it's going to mean some adjustments to these standards and conventions, then we need to work on that collectively, rather than seeking to circumvent them or implement additional controls that don't align with the framework that the international system has spent many decades establishing. Next slide, please. So what is the solution? I think, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most important things we must consider collectively is engagement and consultation, and that includes pre-decisional consultation and harmonization. So where we have an emergency situation like we were faced with last year, we need to consult together, and that includes industry and governments, international organizations, and come up with the solution, because we can't do this alone. And I think that the really important message there is to say that the measures that are implemented in those emergency situations need to be effective, and they need to be realistic, and they need to be workable for industry. There's no use having measures that don't align with the way industry operates. I think one of the big issues that we saw in the aftermath of these incidents, and again, not to say that this was intentional and not to blame anybody in particular, but we saw some assumptions made about the way the cargo sector operates. I mean, it's very dynamic. Jacob touched on this earlier with his slide on the mail system. It's a very complex system that involves multiple stakeholders. Not all cargo and mail operates in the same way. It depends on the carrier and where it's coming from and going to. So it's important to consider those things before we start implementing additional or enhanced measures. And the second point there again is adherence with existing international framework. So we've all collectively spent many, many years together working on these solutions and building the international framework that we have in place today. And we can't forget that. I mean, there might be a situation where we have to implement some temporary measures on an emergency basis, but we have to recall that framework that we've built together and ensure that that remains a priority. And if it means adjusting that framework, then that needs to be that collective discussion that involves the wide consultation across the sector, both government and industry. Another thing that IATA has done in response to these events, and this is a huge thanks to the industry partners as well as our international counterparts that were involved, we developed a guidance document, which is actually publicly available on the IATA website. if you go to the security section or the cargo security section on the public website, you'll be able to download the PDF version. So we worked together with the IATA Cargo Security Working Group to develop a guidance document. And that document, I suppose, had two central aims. The first was to develop an enhanced understanding of what incendiaries actually are and why they pose a threat to aviation. But secondly, to consider the events that occurred last year and then look at some potential voluntary security measures that you could implement as an operator. And by operator, I mean you could be an airline, you could be a freight forwarder, you could be a regulated agent. So it's a wide audience there. But it includes a selection of voluntary measures that you could implement to mitigate the threat of IIDs. And again, they're voluntary, and operators would need to consider those measures in conjunction with their own operations and risk assessment activity. And I think the key part of this document too is to say that the entire document relates relates to cargo and mail. So we make no distinction between the two. Of course, some of the measures in that document would only be realistic or applicable for cargo, but many of them could be applied to both cargo or mail. And you'll see on the right-hand side below the document there, letter, post, and parcels. This is an example of one of the measures that we included that was specific to the mail system. But again, the entire document, we were very clear and specific to say that it covers mail as well. And you'll see that where we reference cargo, we also reference mail. So we say cargo and mail together. Most recently in April 2025, we had a workshop in Dubai on the sidelines of our cargo symposium. So this brought together a range of industry experts to consider the next phase of our response. So I think industry has done quite a good job now of working through the challenges that we had faced late last year and now looking forward to the implementation phase. And so this workshop aimed to consider what is next. And some of the key outcomes from that workshop included the revision of the guidance document, which I just mentioned. So within the next few months, we will revise that document, enhance it, build on it, include more material, more background information into version 2. The other key priority is to ensure that international and coordinated approach. So again, probably the biggest or the most important theme that we considered was the importance of working on this together. And that will also include, targeted outreach to specific regulators and regions, as well as work with ICAO and the UPU. And I think to conclude this section, I do want to thank as well the extensive work that has gone on in the background. Firstly, from industry. It was a very stressful time for many operators. So a lot of hours were spent, a lot of time was spent, lots of concern, lots of worry. So firstly, the industry, but secondly, all the work that happened in the background at the international level involving ICAO, the UPU, IATA, our trade association counterparts. There was a lot of meetings, a lot of engagement that happened to work through these events. And of course, we still have a ways to go. Next slide, please. So this will start the second theme of my presentation today. We held a workshop in Madrid just a couple of weeks ago on the reform initiative that IATA has started quite recently. So to give you a little bit of background, the Consignment Security Declaration and the e-Consignment Security Declaration. So the first one obviously is the manual mechanism, like a paper-based option. and the eCSD is the electronic version. So the CSD is a process that IATA first started working on in around 2010, involving some industry volunteers. And it's a way to firstly issue a security status on a consignment, and that includes mail, and then transfer that status throughout the secure supply chain. A few years later, ICAO adopted some guidance into document 8973 regarding the CSD and that process. And all of that continues today. In 2015, IATA passed a resolution. So these resolutions are for all IATA member airlines to comply with. And that resolution essentially requires the use of a CSD or the eCSD. Now, I think it's fair to say that that process has served the industry quite well in the last 10, 15 years. But looking forward, there is definitely an opportunity to reform that process and modernize it. I think we need to acknowledge that there are some ongoing implementation and adoption challenges regarding the CSD, and that's exactly what our reform initiative plans to address. So, as I said earlier, a few weeks ago, we held a workshop in Madrid involving experts from airlines, freight forwarders, ground handlers to discuss the next phase. I can say it's a very complex discussion. It's not as simple as simply a security status and transferring that security status, because it's such a multi-stakeholder process. It involves basically the entire supply chain. And on top of that, it's going to involve the likes of ICAO and the UPU to help support whatever that initiative looks like. And I should also mention that the fundamental basis behind the CSD really is the Annex 17 standard 4.6.8, which says that each contracting state shall ensure that cargo and mail that has been confirmed and accounted for shall then be issued with a security status, which shall accompany, either in an electronic format or in writing, the cargo and mail throughout the secure supply chain. So there are those two core elements. Firstly, issue a security status, and secondly, the ability to transfer that security status throughout the supply chain. And feedback from our member airlines also suggests that for them, having the ability to issue a security status, but also to check that security status at any stage throughout the supply chain is very important and very valuable. So that's the ability for an airline to check on the status of a particular consignment in a quick and convenient way to determine, has it been screened, how was it screened, and when was it screened. So as part of this workshop, we had worked on a few priorities, and I'll touch on a few of those now. Firstly, as I mentioned earlier, the need to modernize and digitize. I'd really like to emphasize the second part there, the digitization of the process. I think we need to really do our best collectively to consider a means that is digital. I mean, digital, firstly, is more secure, it's more reliable, it's more convenient, and it's better for everybody. I mean, we are well aware, of course, that there are some jurisdictions that are not quite ready for a digital process, but it's certainly our intention to work together with all of our counterparts to come up with a solution to really push that digitization process and to ensure that we can have a digital process. And really, I think too, whatever this shapes out to be, however the reform takes place, the means for transferring, well, for issuing the security status and for transferring it, really is an open door. It's up to industry and our international counterparts to determine, and it could be a completely reformed process that we come up with over the next few months. But either way, it will meet the objective of that key Annex 17 requirement. And I think the other really important thing here for the mail side is to underscore the point that whatever the reform process looks like, and whatever the ultimate sort of solution turns out to be, it must be applicable for both cargo and mail. We can't have a process that's only applicable for cargo or only applicable for mail. It has to cover both. And it has to cover both in a consistent, reliable, and harmonized fashion, and ideally a digitized fashion. The third point there, universal adoption. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. It needs to be a process that is universally accepted and harmonized. And if you go back to 2010, that was exactly the original intent behind the first establishment of the CSD. It was to develop a process that was harmonized, universal, and consistent. And that's exactly what we propose on doing during this reform, is to develop a solution that is universal, that all operators can use. And then lastly, again, the primary objective there is to align with that Annex 17 requirement and to support that fundamental requirement for airlines to be able to issue a security status, but secondly, to check on that status. Next slide, please. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. I think there are probably a couple of really important messages out of today. Mr. Oswald, during the opening remarks, commented on the shared responsibility, and I'd really like to echo those points and to say that all of us are trying to achieve here the same outcome. It doesn't matter if we're working for an airline, for an airport, for a ground handler, for a designated operator, for a postal operator, ICAO, all of us have security in mind, and we can't do it alone. We rely on each other, and we must work together to achieve that ultimate outcome. And indeed, Jacob also mentioned during his presentation that collaboration is key. And again, that's exactly why we're here today. I think this is a really great opportunity, and it shows the way that we can get together as industry, as trade associations, ICAO, the UPU, and share ideas, ask questions, and ultimately achieve that goal of security together. So thanks very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I'll hand back to Zoran. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas, very much for this presentation. As you provide us a lot of information, a lot of concerns, and of course, as you mentioned, the collaboration is a key. We would like also to emphasize very good collaboration and cooperation between UPU IATA in the last several years, which continues to be the cornerstone of our shared progress. And of course, we are looking forward to build this strong partnership as we address the future challenges together. Now I would like to switch to our last presentation. Our last and final speaker for today is Ms. Kirstine Pedersen, coordinator of the Interpol Global Academy and the head of International IP Crime Investigators College. She will speak on law enforcement training to reduce the risk relating to hazardous goods. So Christine, you have a floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me first thank all the previous presenters for making so many good points. And indeed, also, I'm very happy to be here. And one of the first reasons is that I also want to echo the importance of all of us working together. And indeed, me and my colleagues are also available to do what we can in this joint fight that we have against illicit trade. So as you have said, Søren, my name is Kirstine Pedersen. I'm an Interpol official. I have been for more than 15 years. So before I go into the details of my presentation, let me clarify a little bit what Interpol is. So we are also an international organization. We are the International Criminal Police Organization. And we have 196 member countries. We also have what we call regional bureaus in each part of the world. We saw a map earlier on, so basically our membership reflect those same areas. And in all of our member countries, we have what we call a National Central Bureau, which is often located within the National Police. So that's our communication line to facilitate cooperation and to assist our member countries in fighting many different types of crime. We've heard today about these various threats that we're all facing, very serious threats related to all these dangerous types of goods that are being transported around the world. And my job with me and my team is to try and educate global law enforcement, so police, customs, regulatory bodies, and other public stakeholders in what illicit trade is, what tools we have available to assist our colleagues around the world to better understand how these threats and how the criminal groups behind all of this work, and how we can work together. So with this, I'll now go into the details to give you a few insights into what our International IP Crime Investigators College is. So as you can see here, we have a mission, which is to educate global law enforcement and other public stakeholder groups to efficiently be able to combat what we call transnational organized IP crime or intellectual property crime. And this refers to the different types of illicit trade and transport of dangerous goods that we've been talking about today. Next slide, please. So as part of this college, we have different types of training and capacity building that we offer. We offer and deliver training both in person, but also online. And what I'm going to focus on here today is a series of e-learning or online courses that we have available, and that we have also collaborated, especially with you at the UPU, to offer as a joint training to law enforcement and postal security operators. And let me take this chance as well to thank you for the collaboration we've had so far, and to thank you and the other organizers for inviting me here today. So you can see that we divide our courses into different curriculums, and we have specialized courses for customs, for example, or for prosecutors and the other judiciary. We also have what we call industry-specific courses. And some examples here are, for example, courses focusing on falsified medical products, which are often shipped in small parcels or by mail, or also specific courses related, for example, to lithium-ion batteries, which can easily catch fire and indeed be very dangerous. We have a series of very short courses that we make available, and we also have a variety of different webinars and podcasts that are available by creating an account with our college, and I'll get to that a bit later. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, we are a global institution. This reflects indeed the 196 Interpol member countries. We created this training platform back in 2010, and we deliver the training in various languages. Interpol has 4 official languages: English, French, Spanish, and Arabic. And we've added some other languages as well in order to better facilitate and to spread the knowledge about what this is all about. Our courses are also available on different devices, on mobile phones, for example, and very easily accessible. Next slide, please. So just very briefly, what I want to underline here so the courses that I'm talking about here today are for law enforcement and for public stakeholders. I mentioned earlier that in each of our member countries, we have a National Central Bureau as part of the police department. But what you need to remember here, for those of you who are interested and for whom this is relevant, is that you can go to our website where you can find this information, and I'll provide it later. And you can also send us an email on the email that I have put here, iipcic.interpol.int. And that will enable me and my team to provide access and to facilitate more information. Next slide, please. We believe that it's very important as well, as part of our joint efforts, to also recognize all the good work being done around the world. And for that reason, we have created something that we call our IPSIC Awards. We refer to our IP Crime College as IPSIC. And so we have 2 different awards that we hand out every year. And on our website, you will be able to read more about if you would like to nominate an official law enforcement representative to receive one of these. You can do so, and we would very much welcome it. And let me take this opportunity as well to thank all of you for the work that you do to help us keep the world a safer place. Next slide, please. Just to touch upon different types of training products that we are currently developing. Maybe some of you have had an opportunity to try virtual reality goggles. So in our team, we have developed different scenarios. For example, what you see here is a fully virtual training session where the learners has an opportunity to go to a virtual warehouse, which, for example, could be a customs warehouse, where you can inspect different types of goods and learn more about what to look for in order to determine whether it's a counterfeit, for example, and also how to better understand the examination of the paperwork that are part of the global supply chain. Next slide, please. You can see here that we have different ways of making this specific type of learning available. On the right-hand side, you see what we call our classroom in a box. So this is a suitcase, essentially, that we can take to different member countries. And in this way, work, for example, with a law enforcement training academy to provide this specific type of training. So this is one of the ways that we work with our law enforcement counterparts in order to provide training on illicit trade, safety, and security. Next slide, please. We have a catalog where you can read in more detail about all the different in-person, online, and other types of courses that we make available. You can see the website where you can read about all of these materials here, and you can also scan the QR code. The information is available in all the various languages that I mentioned before. Please have a look, and as we heard, the materials will be made available to you later on, so you have plenty of time to go and have a look. Next slide, please. I wanted to take this opportunity to share information about an international event that we host every year. We have something that we call the International Law Enforcement IP Crime Conference, which has been taking place for the past 17 years. And indeed, our next conference will be held in Lyon, in France, which is the city of the headquarters for Interpol. And I think that this conference could be an excellent way to continue the dialogue that we have started here today. Registration is open for law enforcement and both public and private sector. So I would very much welcome all of you to join us there to continue the discussion and to further detail how we can work together. You can find all information about how to register and what the program looks like, again, on our website or by scanning the QR code that you see here. and you have the dates, so we have some time before. It's okay, thank you. You can go to the next slide. We also work with academia. We work with academia in many different ways, for example, in relation to research projects. We benefit from the research being done by universities in relation to the dangers of illicit trade and the dangers of all these goods that are being transported. And then what we are able to do is to use our global presence to create learning products and to better raise awareness and spread the knowledge to law enforcement around the world. We've also collaborated, for example, with Portsmouth University, who have created a short course to teach about the dangers of illicit goods and what we're talking about here today. And if you are interested in learning more, the next intake for this particular course is also open to all of you, and you can read about it again on our website or on the QR code that you see here. On the various links on this page, you can watch a little video and you can read in more detail what the certificate will teach you about. Next slide, please. So that was actually all that I had to share with you here today. I wanted to be short and concrete because I knew I was going to be after all the wonderful presentations that we've had already. But before I conclude, again, let me point out what I think are the most important points that I would like you to remember. So again, as my counterparts have said, the importance of all of us working together, and that includes law enforcement. I think we can learn from each other and achieve great results if we build those bridges both at international, regional and national levels. Second point, what we're talking about when we are referring to the transportation of different types of dangerous or hazardous goods is organized crime. So it's important to remember that behind all of these are huge criminal networks that are making huge profits from spreading all these dangerous goods around the world. And that is one of the reasons why it's important to also include law enforcement to be able to do more in-depth investigations, indeed make use of some of the tools that we have as law enforcement, also to raise awareness about the dangers these goods imply, etc. And finally, let me thank you again for including me. As you know, I'm a training official, and I really firmly believe that training is one of the ways that we can help spread the knowledge, as we've also heard. So please have a look on our website and let me know if there's anything I can do to assist you. Thank you very much. Søren, back over to you.
Thank you, Kirsten, really for this powerful reminder of the essential role of the law enforcement that plays in protecting the mail stream. Your emphasis of the importance of training in detecting and preventing criminal misuse resonate deeply across the both postal and aviation sector. Strengthening these capabilities is not only vital, it is also essential to ensure the integrity and security of global mail operations. Thank you. Now I would like to give a floor for closing remarks to Mr. Matthew Tang, Senior Manager from IATA, and then to Mr. Jan Bojnanski, Supply Chain Coordinator from the UPU. Please, Matt, you have a floor, and then Jan. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Matthew Tang, Senior Manager, E-commerce, Mail, and Cargo Operations from IATA. So I would like to do a wrap-up for the webinar today. So I would like to start with saying that airmail security and airmail safety topic in the industry is a kind of okay, are we being forced to comply it? Are we being asked to comply it because we want to be safe and secure? Looks like a little bit not proactive, but during the whole webinar for today, I can make sure that if you attend from the beginning and the end of this webinar, it's always throughout 673 participants throughout the whole webinars. So that means that we have a common goal. We share the same values. We want to be safe, not just because we are asked to do that. This is not just a business. This is an issue that we feel important. As IATA, we speak on behalf of our airlines members because we have the post, we have regulations, we have civil aviation authority, but we still need airlines to fly the shipments from origin to destination. We have passengers, even a whole air cargo aircraft. We have pilots, we have the crew on board. Passenger flights, cargo flights, freighters, we have people on the plane. You and I used to be, or we are always, sometimes we fly, we are playing the role as a passengers. So we care about the safety of human lives. And we are not just want to comply the regulation because we want to do the business, because we do know that it is really important to maintain this safety and security topic. The collaboration is a key. I think this is one of the key takeaway statements from this webinar. So usually we will have 2 webinars in a year. This one will be the first one in 2025. We have IATA-UPU and ICAO. And then later on at the end of this year, we will have the second one. I do not have a teaser trailer for the second one, but I think this one is the one start with understanding the existing regulation, understanding what are the resources, guidance, materials available from IATA, UPU, and ICAO, so that you know where you can grab the information and understand the rationale behind, understand the history or story or data. And the next step is that how to deliver and how to implement. So even I don't have a teaser trailer, but I would like to say that in the next webinar, we may focus more on the real stakeholders from the industry. How do we implement and how do we overcome the challenges and how do we plan to mitigate some potential risk and challenges in the coming webinar? So this is my wrap-up for today. Soren, if I over back to you to talk about the survey of this webinar and collect the feedback.
Yep.
Over to you, Soren.
Thank you so much. Jan, would you like to take a floor to give some remarks as well? Yep, most probably he will come back later. So what I would like to ask you is to take 2 minutes, 3 minutes more and scan this QR code, which you can see on the page. This is extremely important for us because we would like to hear your feedback on this webinar and also what kind of topic you would like to have on the next webinar. As already mentioned by Matthew, this is also important as we will like to have a second webinar on safety. Therefore, we would like to hear your view, what kind of topic you would like to hear during this webinar, and of course, to let us know your feedback, whether the webinar is long, short, what kind of questions and answers you would like to have after each one of the webinar. Also, just to know to you that after this webinar, of course, we will share with you the questions and answer in the form of the document. That we will share also the recording, and also we will share the presentation which you already saw in this webinar. So I will give you 30 seconds, 1 minute more to take a scan of this one, and then I will make the closing part. Okay, thank you. This slide also, if you have any questions regarding the workshops, please do not hesitate to contact us as a transport@upu.tnt, to UPU, to IATA TANG-M at IATA@org, and for also ICAO, you have Virgilio Allergia, also email. Please just let us know if you have any questions in addition to topics which we have discussed during this webinar. Now we have approached to the end of this webinar. We look forward to welcome you again, of course, on the next webinar, which we are planning in the end of 2025, as Matt mentioned in his closing remark. We will shift to our focus to safety in the airmail and cargo environment. And of course, we are excited to continue this important dialogue with all of you. I would like to read one statement which Henry Ford made a long time ago, and he said, "If everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself." So I wish you all pleasant day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you and all the best and goodbye. Thank you.